The alarms started screaming at 3 in the morning station time. Jake jerked his head up from the maintenance panel he had been working on and wiped the grease from his hands. In his 2 years at Frontier Station Echo 7, emergency alerts were rare. Most ships traveling through this sector of space knew exactly where they were going and caused no trouble. He moved quickly to the control console and checked the screens. An unknown vessel was approaching fast, too fast for a normal docking procedure. The ship was broadcasting emergency codes on every frequency. Jake zoomed in the camera and felt his stomach tighten. The vessel looked like it had been through a war. Scorch marks covered the hull. Entire sections were missing. He could see atmosphere leaking from at least 3 breaches. Station Echo 7 to approaching vessel, Jake said into the communications system. We read your distress call. Reduce speed and prepare for emergency dock at Bay 3. Only static answered him. Jake switched through different channels but got nothing except interference. Whoever was piloting that ship was either unconscious or their communications were completely destroyed. He initiated the automatic docking sequence and hoped the vessel's computer could still receive guidance signals. The ship lurched into the docking bay like a drunk man stumbling through a door. Metal screamed against metal as it scraped the bay walls. Jake winced but kept his hands steady on the controls. He managed to get the magnetic clamps engaged and seal the bay door behind the damaged vessel. His supervisor's voice crackled through his headset. What have we got? An unknown vessel in distress, sir. Heavy damage. No response to communications. Jake was already pulling on his environment suit and grabbing the emergency medical kit. We run the registry scan. Don't approach until we identify them. Jake hit the scanner, but the results made him pause. The ship's design did not match anything in the station's database. The computer kept cycling through possibilities and finding nothing. The registry is blank, sir. I have never seen a ship like this before. Then you follow protocol. You seal that bay and wait for the security team. I am calling Commander Phillips right now. Jake looked at the screen showing the docking bay. The ship's hatch was opening. Something large was moving inside. Sir, someone is coming out. They might need immediate help. You stay put. That is an order. Jake kept his eyes on the screen. A massive shape emerged from the smoking hatch, and his breath caught in his throat. The being was easily 3 meters tall, with scales that shimmered between blue and green under the bay lights. 2 large wings were folded tight against its back. The head was elongated, with prominent horns curving backward. Despite never seeing one in person, Jake recognized the species from old databases and rumors. A real living. The creature took 2 steps and collapsed. Even through the camera, Jake could see the dark stains covering its body. Blood that was badly hurt. Sir, it is wounded and down. The silence on the other end lasted too long. When his supervisor finally spoke, his voice was tight. Listen to me carefully. They are listed as dangerous and uncontacted. You do not approach. Security is 20 minutes out. Just monitor the situation. Jake watched the screen. That was trying to crawl toward the bay's water dispenser. One clawed hand reached out, scraping against the floor. The creature's breathing was labored, visible even from here. Its eyes, large and golden, stared at the water just meters away. It is dying, sir. That is not our problem. You wait for security. Jake thought about protocol. He thought about the regulations. He thought about all the reasons he should stay where he was and let trained personnel handle this. Then he looked at the again, watching it struggle for each breath. He thought about why he had come to this frontier station in the first place. After losing his wife and daughter in a transport accident 3 years ago, Jake had wanted to escape. But he had also wanted to find purpose again. He had wanted to help people, to save lives when he could. Do you copy? Jake grabbed the medical kit and headed for the bay door. Sorry, sir. Communications must be breaking up. He heard his supervisor yelling as he switched off the headset. The bay door opened with a hiss and Jake stepped inside. The air smelled like burned metal and something else, something organic and unfamiliar. This head turned slowly toward him. Those golden eyes focused on Jake, and for a moment neither of them moved. Jake held up his hands slowly, showing he carried only the medical kit. Easy there, I am here to help. The made a sound, something between a growl and a wheeze. Its translator device, hanging damaged around its neck, sparked and produced only garbled noise. But its eyes told Jake everything. They were afraid, desperate, pleading. Jake approached carefully and knelt beside the massive creature. Up close, the damage was even worse. Plasma burns covered the torso. One wing was torn. Dark blood pooled beneath the body. "Let me help you," Jake said quietly, even though the creature probably could not understand him. He opened the medical kit and pulled out the universal healing foam. It was designed to work on most carbon-based life forms. He hoped it would work on a. The creature did not fight him. It lay still as Jake sprayed the foam over the worst burns. The breathing gradually became less ragged. Jake moved to the damaged wing and applied more foam to the torn membrane. Throughout it all, those golden eyes never left him. Jake stood and retrieved water from the dispenser. He brought it back and held it to the mouth. The creature drank weakly, some water spilling from the sides of its jaws. When it finished, it looked at Jake with something that might have been confusion. "You are going to be okay," Jake said. He did not know if that was true, but he said it anyway. His headset crackled to life. "Security is 10 minutes out. Step away from that thing immediately." Jake looked at the creature was still watching him with those intense golden eyes. There was intelligence there, understanding, and something else, surprise, as if they had never expected this kind of response from anyone, especially not from a human. Acknowledge. Jake reached up and turned off his headset again. He sat down beside the wounded alien and kept working. Whatever came next, he had made his choice. He had seen someone in need and he had helped. That was all that mattered. The made another sound. The damaged translator sparked and this time produced a few clear words. "Why help enemy?" Jake met those golden eyes and gave a small smile. "You are not my enemy. You are just someone who needs help." The stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, it closed its eyes and seemed to relax. For the first time since it had stumbled out of that broken ship, the creature stopped fighting. It had found, against all odds and expectations, something it never thought it would find in this cold universe. The security team arrived with weapons drawn and Commander Phillips at the front. Jake was still sitting beside when they burst through the bay door. He did not move. He just kept his hand near the creature's head, a small gesture of comfort that probably meant nothing to an alien but felt important to Jake. "I step away from it now." Phillips was a hard man with 30 years of military service behind him. His face showed no emotion, but his hand stayed on his weapon. Jake stood slowly. Commander, this being is severely wounded. It needs proper medical attention. Well, what it needs is to be contained until we understand what we are dealing with. Phillips gestured to his team. Get out of there. Secure the creature. The two security officers moved forward. The eyes snapped open and it tried to rise. Pain and fear showed clearly on its alien face. Jake stepped between the officers and the creature without thinking. Sir, you are just scaring it. Let me try to fix the translator first. We need to know what happened. Phillips studied Jake for a long moment. You have 5 minutes. Then we do this my way. Jake knelt again and carefully examined the translator device hanging around the neck. The casing was cracked, but the internal components looked salvageable. He had always been good with electronics. It was why the station kept him around despite his preference for working alone. He pulled tools from his kit and started making adjustments. Can you understand me? Jake asked while he worked. The made clicking sounds, but the translator only produced static. Jake swapped out a burned circuit board with a spare from his multi-tool. This time, when the creature spoke, words came through clearly. Why you help humans fear? Maybe, Jake said. But that does not mean I let someone die when I can help them. The golden eyes narrowed. I am Axe, war leader of the Third Fleet. You should fear me. Should I? Jake finished his repairs and sat back. You look more like someone who needs a friend right now. Axe made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been pain. I have no friends. I am declared traitor by my own kind. Hunted. They will come for me. Commander Phillips stepped closer. What did you do to become a traitor? Axe's head turned slowly toward the commander. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. I refused orders. My fleet was commanded to destroy a colony world. 50,000 beings, mostly children and elders. They had no weapons, no defenses. I said no. So they tried to kill you, Jake said quietly. My own second in command fired on my ship. I barely escaped. Axe closed his eyes, but I could not leave them all behind. Leave who behind? Phillips asked. Axe did not answer. Instead, he tried to rise. Jake helped support the massive creature as it stumbled toward its damaged ship. The security team raised their weapons, but Phillips held up his hand. They all followed Axe into the smoking vessel. The inside of the ship was worse than the outside. Burned panels hung from the walls. Exposed wiring sparked occasionally. Axe led them to a small chamber near the rear. When he opened the door, Jake heard himself gasp. The three small huddled in the corner. They were barely a meter tall, with softer scales and smaller wings. Children. Their eyes were huge with fear, and they pressed against each other when they saw the humans. Orphans, Axe said. From the colony my fleet destroyed before I stopped them. I grabbed who I could, tried to save them. He looked at Jake. I have been running for many days. No food, no safe place. Ship dying. I saw your station and I hoped, foolish hope, but I had nothing else. One of the young made a small sound. It was looking at Jake with the same desperate eyes Axe had shown earlier. Jake felt something break inside his chest. These were children. Scared, hungry, alone. It did not matter what species they were. Commander, Jake said, we have to help them. Phillips was quiet for a long moment. This could cause a diplomatic incident. The Empire is not part of the Galactic Council. We have no treaties with them if we harbor their fugitives. They are children, Jake interrupted. Since when do we let children die because of politics? Phillips looked at the young, his jaw tightened. Since when do you question orders? You have already broken a dozen protocols today. Then what is a few more? Jake met his commander's eyes. Sir, this is why we are out here, to help people who need it, please. The commander's hand moved away from his weapon. He sighed heavily. You are going to cost me my career. He turned to his security team. No one saw any here. The ship left before we arrived. Understood. The security officers exchanged glances. One of them, a young woman named Lisa, stepped forward. Understood, sir. We saw nothing. The others nodded in agreement. Phillips looked at Axe. You and these children need to disappear. You know this station better than anyone. Find them a place. Jake felt relief wash through him. The maintenance bay in Section 7. It is scheduled for repairs next month. No one goes there. Make it happen. Phillips turned to leave, then paused. And if anyone asks, especially station command above me, you are going to lie better than you have ever lied in your life. Yes, sir. After Phillips and his team left, Jake helped Axe and the children move to the maintenance bay. It took 3 trips. The young were weak from hunger and fear. They clung to Axe and watched Jake with cautious eyes. Lisa stayed behind to help. She brought food synthesizers and medical supplies. "I have a daughter," she said to Jake while they set up makeshift sleeping areas. "She is about their age, I think. I could not walk away either." Jake smiled at her. "Thank you." Do not thank me yet. If we get caught, we both lose our jobs. Probably get arrested, too." "Oh, worth it," Jake said. Axe was settling the children into a corner when Jake approached with food. The youngs sniffed at it suspiciously. Axe took some first and ate to show it was safe. Then the children attacked the food with desperate hunger. "Avi, you risk much for us," Axe said to Jake. "I do not understand why." Jake watched the children eat. They were already looking less scared. One of them even made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Where I come from, we believe the measure of a person is not how they treat the powerful. It is how they treat those who cannot fight back." "Humans are strange," Axe said, but his voice held something new. Something the fleet split apart before their eyes. 4 warships remained with but 3 broke away completely. They moved to form a defensive position between the station and Or's remaining forces. Then a new transmission came through from one of the ships that had broken away. "A Frontier Station Echo 7, this is Captain Aura of the Crimson Wing. We have listened to your words. We have watched your actions. We stand with Axe. We stand with the human Jake. We will not allow a war leader or to destroy this station." Jake stared at the screen in shock. Commander Phillips grabbed his shoulder. "I think you just caused a mutiny in the military." Another transmission came through. More warships appeared on sensors, jumping in from different vectors. Some joined Aura's position. Others moved to support, or within minutes, the space around Frontier Station Echo 7 had become a standoff between 2 factions. Or's face appeared on screen again. His expression was pure rage. "Captain Aura, you commit treason. All who support you will be hunted and destroyed." Aura responded immediately. "No, war leader, you are the traitor. You and those who order the slaughter of innocents. You betray everything the once stood for. Our ancestors were protectors, not murderers. Axe remembers that. I remember that." And now, thanks to this human, the entire galaxy is about to remember it too. What does that mean? Phillips asked. Aura answered him directly. Your speech was broadcast on open channels, Jake. It has it has spread through our networks. Millions of our people heard you. They heard what you did for Axe and the orphans. They are asking questions. Questions about our government, our military, our actions. You have started something that cannot be stopped. Jake felt dizzy. He had just wanted to save one person, 3 children. He never imagined this. Or snarled. One human's words mean nothing. I have my orders. I have my duty. He cut the transmission and his ships began powering weapons. The alarms screamed across the station. Phillips grabbed the station-wide intercom. All personnel, this is Commander Phillips. Emergency evacuation protocols. Everyone to the escape pods now. This is not a drill. Sir, what about Axe and the children? Lisa asked. We get them to an escape pod, too. Move. They ran back to the maintenance bay. Axe was already gathering the children when they arrived. He had heard the alarms. The young were terrified, clinging to each other and making frightened sounds. Come on, Jake said. We need to go now. But Axe did not move toward the door. Instead, he stood in Jake's path. No, you evacuate. Take the children. I will go too, or... that is suicide, Jake said. It is the only way to stop this. If I surrender, he has no reason to fight Aura, no reason to destroy your station. Axe knelt down and spoke softly to the children in their own language. They cried and grabbed at him, but he gently pushed them toward Jake. Promise me you will protect them. I promise, but you are coming too. Jake grabbed Axe's arm. We do not leave anyone behind. That is not how this works. You cannot save everyone, Jake. You must know this. Jake thought about Caroline and Emma, about how he had not been there to save them, about 3 years of guilt and pain. Maybe not, but I will die trying before I give up on someone worth saving. The station shook. Weapons fire had started outside. Aura's ships were engaging Or's forces. They were fighting each other. Against, all because Jake had shown mercy to one wounded warrior at a fuel pump. An explosion rocked the station. Emergency lights flickered. Phillips shouted into his communicator. Hull breach in Section 4. We are losing atmosphere. Everyone evacuate now. Axe pushed Jake toward the door. Go, please. You have done enough. You have given me hope. You have shown me that not all beings are cruel. That is gift enough. The smallest child broke free and ran to Axe. She wrapped her tiny arms around his leg and refused to let go. The other two children joined her. They were all crying, begging in their language. Axe closed his eyes, and Jake saw tears on the warrior's scaled face. They need you," Jake said quietly. "They have already lost everything once. Do not make them lose you too." Another explosion. Closer this time, Phillips grabbed Jake's arm. "We are out of time. The whole station is coming apart." Jake looked at Axe, at the children, at Lisa and Phillips. He made a decision. "Then we all go together. Axe, you can fit in the cargo pod. It is big enough. The children go with you. We will all evacuate and let Ara handle or—" There is no cargo pod," Axe said. "Your escape pods are too small for a full-grown." Then we take your ship," Jake said. "It is damaged, but maybe it can still fly." "It cannot survive a jump to hyperspace. The engines are too damaged. We would not get far." "If far enough to get away from this fight, far enough to survive." Jake met Axe's eyes. "Please trust me one more time." Axe stared at him, then slowly he nodded. "You are the strangest human I have ever met, but also the bravest." They ran through the shaking station. Other personnel were flooding toward the escape pods. Some stared at Axe and the children. Some looked afraid. But many looked at Jake with something else. Respect. Understanding. Lisa shouted directions, helping people evacuate while guiding Jake's group toward the docking bay. Orr's voice boomed through the station's speakers. Somehow he had hacked into their systems. "Jake, I offer you one final chance. Surrender Axe, and I will allow all humans to live. Refuse, and I will destroy everything. Your choice will decide if hundreds die today." Jake kept running. They reached the docking bay where Axe's damaged ship waited. Phillips was already firing up the engines remotely. "It is responding, barely. You might have 5 minutes of flight time before it falls apart." That will have to be enough." Jake helped the children into the ship. They climbed aboard reluctantly, still scared but trusting him. Axe followed, moving carefully through the damaged corridors of his vessel. Another massive explosion ripped through the station. The docking bay door began to fail. Phillips cursed and worked frantically at the controls. The bay is losing pressure. We need to seal it or we cannot launch. Sir, you need to evacuate too, Jake said. Someone has to open the bay door manually. The controls are fried. Phillips looked at Jake. Get them out of here, that is an order, and Jake, I am proud to have known you. Commander, no. Go. Phillips hit the emergency release. The ship's airlock sealed. Jake pounded on the door, but it would not open. Through the window, he saw Phillips running to the manual controls. Lisa was with him. They were both staying behind to give Jake and the others time to escape. Axe was at the pilot controls. We must go now, or their sacrifice means nothing. Jake strapped himself in, his eyes still on the window. He saw Phillips and Lisa reach the manual controls, saw them pulling the heavy lever together. The bay door began to open. Space appeared beyond, black and full of stars and laser fire. Launching, Axe said. The damaged ship lurched forward. Jake caught one last glimpse of Phillips and Lisa. They were smiling, proud of what they had done, proud of the stand they had taken. The ship shot out into space just as another explosion tore through the docking bay. Jake closed his eyes. He did not know if Phillips and Lisa had made it to escape pods in time. He wanted to believe they had. He needed to believe it. The warships ahead, Axe warned. Orr's forces were closing in. They were going to die out here, Jake realized. They had escaped the station only to die in the emptiness between stars. Then something appeared in front of them. A massive ship, bigger than any of the warships. Its design was unfamiliar but beautiful, covered in symbols that glowed with gentle light. A voice came through on all frequencies. This is Galactic Council Mediator Ship Harmony. All combat will cease immediately. The Council has heard reports of this conflict, and we invoke emergency peacekeeping protocols. Any ship that continues hostile action will be detained and its crew prosecuted for war crimes. Is this understood? Or ship stopped firing. So did Aura's. Everyone hung in space waiting. The mediator ship moved between them all, a neutral presence that could not be ignored. More council ships appeared from hyperspace. Peacekeepers, diplomats, witnesses. Jake slumped in his seat. They had survived. Somehow, impossibly, they had survived. The children made soft sounds in the back of the ship. Axe turned to look at Jake. The warrior's golden eyes were wet with tears he no longer tried to hide. You did it, Jake. You saved us all." Jake thought about the price, about Phillips and Lisa, about a station that might be destroyed, about the military tearing itself apart, about an empire that would never be the same, all because he had seen someone in need and chosen to help. "I just did what anyone should do," Jake said quietly. The Galactic Council mediator ship brought them aboard first. Jake, Axe, and the 3 children were taken to a medical bay where doctors from a dozen different species checked them over. The children were frightened by all the strange beings, but they stayed close to Jake and Axe, finding comfort in the familiar faces. A council representative appeared after the medical checks. She was a tall and thin with silver skin that shimmered like water. Her name was Ambassador, and her voice was gentle but carried authority. "Jake, you have caused quite a situation. The entire galaxy is watching what happens next." Jake sat on a medical bed with sleeping against his shoulder. "I just helped someone who needed it. I did not mean to cause all this." "Perhaps, but your actions have forced events into motion that cannot be undone." Brought up a holographic display. It showed news reports from hundreds of worlds. Images of Jake helping Axe at the fuel pump had spread everywhere. Someone on the station had recorded it. Now beings across the galaxy were talking about the human who risked everything for a stranger. Among your story has caused the greatest impact," continued. "Their government has tried to suppress it, but they cannot. Too many have seen. Too many are asking questions. Why was Axe declared a traitor for refusing to kill innocents? Why does the Empire engage in such actions at all? The civil unrest is growing." "What will happen to Axe?" Jake asked. "And the children?" That is being decided now. War leader or has demanded Axe be returned for trial. Captain Aura and her faction have demanded the same for Or, claiming he is the real criminal. The council must sort through this carefully. Axe entered the room. His wounds had been properly treated by council doctors. He moved without pain for the first time since arriving at the station. "Ambassador, I will face whatever trial they wish. I do not run from my actions, but the children must be protected. Whatever you do to me, they are innocent." "We agree," said. "The children will remain under council protection regardless of any other decisions. But Axe, you should know that you have supporters now. Many are calling you a hero, not a traitor. This trial may not go the way or expects. Over the next several days, Jake remained aboard the Mediator ship. He learned that Frontier Station Echo 7 had survived the battle, though heavily damaged. Commander Phillips and Lisa had made it to escape pods just in time. They were safe and recovering. Jake felt relief wash through him when he heard he had not wanted more deaths on his conscience. The council set up a formal hearing. They brought representatives from dozens of species to hear the case, or arrived in full military dress, confident and arrogant. He presented his evidence that Axe had disobeyed direct orders and stolen military property when he took the children. Then it was Axe's turn. He stood before the assembly and told his story. He described the colony his fleet had been ordered to destroy. 50,000 beings, mostly children and elders with no defenses. He explained how he had refused, how his own second-in-command had tried to kill him for it, how he had grabbed what children he could and fled. "I am a warrior," Axe said to the assembly. "I have fought in many battles. I have taken many lives, but I will not murder the innocent. I will not kill children. If that makes me a traitor to the Empire, then I am proud to be a traitor." The assembly was moved. Many representatives spoke in Axe's favor. But it was Jake's testimony that changed everything. Ambassador called him to speak. Jake stood before the assembled representatives of hundreds of worlds and felt small. He was just a maintenance engineer. What did he know about galactic politics or military justice? But then he thought about that moment at the fuel pump, about Axe's desperate eyes, about 3 small children who had already lost everything. He started talking. "I am nobody special. I fix machines. I work night shifts. I chose frontier duty because I wanted to be alone. But when I saw Axe that night, bleeding and dying, I had a choice. I could follow the rules and let him die, or I could help. It really was that simple." Jake looked around at all the different species watching him. "I think every being in this room has faced that choice at some point. You see someone suffering and you have to decide. Do you look away? Do you tell yourself it is not your problem? Or do you help, even when it is hard, even when it costs you something, even when everyone tells you you are wrong?" He pointed at Axe. This warrior made that choice. He chose to save children instead of following orders. He chose compassion over cruelty. And for that, his own people tried to kill him. What does that say about the empire? What does that say about any government that punishes mercy? Or stood angrily. You know nothing of our ways, human. You have no right to judge us. Maybe not, Jake said, but I have every right to judge cruelty when I see it, and so does everyone else in this galaxy. You want acts punished for saving lives? Fine. But the whole universe is watching now. They are going to judge you too. And I do not think you are going to like their verdict. The hearing lasted for hours after that. Dozens of species spoke. Documents were presented. Evidence was reviewed. Finally, after 3 days of deliberation, Ambassador announced the Council's decision. The Council finds that acts of the Empire acted within established moral and ethical standards recognized by civilized species. His refusal to participate in attacks on innocent populations is not only justified but commendable. He is granted full asylum and protection under Council authority. Furthermore, the Council formally condemns the actions of those who ordered such attacks and requests the Empire to answer for these war crimes. Orr's face went dark with rage, but he could do nothing. He was on a council ship surrounded by peacekeepers from 100 worlds. He turned and left without another word. But everyone knew this was not over. The Empire would not accept this easily. Jake was right. Within weeks, the situation exploded. The people, inspired by Axe's story and Jake's words, began protesting their government. The military split into factions. Some supported the old ways. Others, like Captain Aura, demanded reform. Civil war seemed inevitable. But something unexpected happened. The Council offered to mediate peace talks. They offered the people a choice. Join the galactic community, accept oversight and standards, or remain isolated. Face the consequences of their actions or choose a new path. It took months of negotiations. Many resisted, but slowly the voices for change grew louder. Axe became a symbol of a new future. Jake's actions at the fuel pump became a story told across the galaxy. The human who risked everything for a stranger. The beginning of change. A year later, Jake stood on a new world. The Council had established a settlement for refugees who wanted to leave the Empire. Axe led the community. Hundreds of lived here now, building a new society based on different values. The three children Jake had helped save were growing up here, learning to live without fear. Ran up to Jake and grabbed his hand. She was taller now, her scales brighter. She spoke better standard language. "Jake, come see, we built a memorial." She led him to the center of the settlement. There stood a statue carved from local stone. It showed a human and a standing together. The human was offering water to the wounded. At the base was a plaque with words in multiple languages. Here began the change. One act of mercy sparked a revolution. Let all who pass remember that true strength lies in compassion. This is the legacy of Jake, the human who saw past fear to help a stranger. Jake felt tears in his eyes. "I do not deserve this." Axe appeared beside him. The warrior was fully healed now, his scars worn with pride. "You deserve more than a statue, my friend. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that courage is not about fighting. It is about choosing what is right even when the cost is high." How is the settlement doing?" Jake asked. "Will we grow every day? More arrive seeking a new life. The empire is slowly changing too. Captain Ara was elected to their new civilian government. They have begun peace talks with the council. It will take time, maybe generations, but change has started." Axe smiled, something Jake never thought he would see from the fierce warrior. "All because you helped a weary dragon at a fuel pump." Lisa visited that day too, along with Commander Phillips. They had both retired from station duty and now worked for the council as advisors on refugee integration. They spent the evening with Jake and Axe, sharing stories and laughter. As the sun set over the settlement, Jake watched children playing with children from other species who had come to live here. They ran together without fear, without hatred, just children being children. This was what peace looked like, what hope looked like. "Do you ever regret it?" Axe asked quietly. "You lost your career, you nearly died, you started a civil war." Jake thought about it, about the risks and the costs, about the nights he still woke up thinking of Caroline and Emma. But he also thought about and the other children alive and happy, about a species finding a new path, about all the lives changed by one simple choice. "No," Jake said, "I would do it all again." Years passed. The legend of Jake grew. On 1,000 worlds, beings told the story of the human at the pump. It became a teaching tale, a reminder that individuals matter, that one person's courage can change everything, that mercy is not weakness but the highest form of strength. Jake eventually returned to Earth. He was old now, his hair gray, his body tired. But he had lived to see real change. The Empire had transformed into the Republic, a full member of the Galactic Council. Axe served as ambassador. The children Jake saved had grown into leaders themselves, spreading the message of cooperation and compassion. On his last day, Jake sat in a garden on Earth, came to visit him. She was fully grown now, beautiful and strong, with children of her own. She sat beside Jake and held his hand with gentle claws. Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." Jake smiled. "I just did what anyone should do." "No," said her voice full of emotion. "You did what no one else would. You saw past fear. You chose hope over hate. You saved me and showed the galaxy what is possible when we choose kindness." She leaned close. "My children will know your story. Their children will know it. Forever your name will be remembered, the human who sparked a legend." Jake closed his eyes. He thought about that night at the fuel pump, about a wounded warrior begging for help, about the choice he made, about everything that came after. He thought about Caroline and Emma and hoped they would be proud of what he had done. He had not saved them, but he had saved others. He had made a difference. That night, Jake passed peacefully in his sleep. News of his death spread across the galaxy. Beings from 100 worlds mourned. The Republic declared a day of remembrance. Statues stood in his honor on dozens of planets. But the real memorial was not in stone or metal. It was in the billions of lives touched by his story. In the who learned that strength means protecting the weak. In the humans who saw that their actions matter. In all beings who heard the tale and chose compassion over fear. The legend of Jake lived on, and somewhere on a distant frontier station, a fuel pump stood with a simple plaque. It marked the spot where everything changed, where a weary dragon begged for help and a human answered, where mercy sparked a revolution, where one ordinary person proved that no act of kindness is ever truly small. The pump still works. Ships still stop there for fuel. And everyone who passes knows the story. They know that on this spot a legend began, not with weapons or speeches or grand gestures, but with simple human decency, with one person seeing another in need and choosing to help. That is the legacy. That is the lesson. That is why the name Jake will never be forgotten. No, Axe replied. You did what no one else would. That is the difference. That is why your name will be remembered. That might have been respect. Get some rest, Jake told him. Tomorrow we figure out what to do next. But as Jake left the maintenance bay and headed back to his station, he had no idea that their problems were just beginning. Far out in space, warships were already tracking Axe's trail. They had found the radiation signature from his damaged engines. They knew exactly where he had gone. And they were coming to finish what they started. It had found Mercy,